take a slow breath. Not a rushed one, not a shallow one, but a deep and gentle breath that reaches a little further than usual. Let the noise around you soften, even if only for this brief moment. The sounds, the thoughts, the expectations, the inner pressure to move faster or do more. Allow them to step back for a while. You are here. And right now, that is enough. Today is not standing before you with a list of demands. It is not asking you to be perfect, productive, or polished. It is not requiring that you have every answer, every plan, or every emotion neatly arranged. This moment is simply inviting you to be present, to arrive fully just as you are. And in this presence we gently invite God to be with us, not because God has been absent, but because our hearts and minds so easily drift away from the awareness of how close He truly is. Inviting God's presence into your day is not about changing who you are. It is not about becoming more spiritual, more disciplined, or more impressive. It is about remembering who walks with you. It is about recognizing that you were never meant to navigate life alone. God is not waiting for you to reach a certain level of calm before drawing near. God is not standing at a distance, arms crossed, waiting for you to get it right. God is already here, steady, patient, attentive. Even now, when your thoughts feel scattered and your emotions feel unsettled, there is a quiet comfort in knowing that God's nearness does not depend on your performance. You do not have to earn it. You do not have to prove your faith is strong enough. You do not have to calm every anxious thought or resolve every inner conflict before God comes close. God meets you where you are, not where you think you should be. And that meeting place is often far gentler than we expect. Many people imagine God's presence as something dramatic or overwhelming. They expect powerful emotions, sudden clarity, or a sense of being overtaken by something extraordinary. And sometimes those moments do happen. But more often God's presence arrives quietly. It feels less like an interruption and more like a reassurance, like a calm awareness that you are not carrying life on your own shoulders, like a gentle sense of being seen, known, and accepted without needing to explain yourself. God's presence does not rush you. It does not pressure you to move faster or do better. It does not overwhelm your senses or demand your attention through force. Instead, it rests with you. It settles beside you, steady and patient, offering companionship rather than commands. And in that quiet companionship, the heart begins to soften. As the day begins, your mind may already feel full. Plans may be forming before your feet even touch the ground. Responsibilities may line up one after another, waiting to be handled. Concerns may quietly whisper about what could go wrong. Expectations, from others or from yourself, may already feel heavy. Before any of these voices speak too loudly, there is space for a simple invitation. This invitation does not need perfect words. It does not require a long prayer or carefully chosen phrases. It begins with openness, with a willingness to say either out loud or deep within, God, be with me in this day just as it is. No conditions, no promises to do better, just an honest opening of the heart. This simple invitation has the power to change how the day feels. Even before it changes anything else, it shifts the inner posture of the heart, from self-reliance to trust, from tension to steadiness, from isolation to companionship. The tasks ahead may remain the same. The challenges may not disappear. But something subtle changes within you. You remember that you are not facing any of it alone. God's presence is not limited to quiet rooms or peaceful moments. It is not confined to early mornings or late nights. It follows you into movement, into work that feels routine or demanding, into conversations that require patience or courage, into decisions where you feel uncertain or torn. Inviting God into your day means allowing faith to walk alongside real life, not apart from it. Faith was never meant to exist only in stillness. It was meant to live in motion, to breathe in the middle of ordinary moments, to steady you when life feels unpredictable. God is just as present in your busiest hours as He is in your quietest ones, just as near in your questions as in your confidence. Sometimes we believe we must calm ourselves before God can meet us. We tell ourselves we need to feel more peaceful, more focused, more faithful. But God meets us as we are. Restless, tired, hopeful, uncertain. Nothing about your current state disqualifies you from God's nearness. In fact, your need often becomes the doorway through which God's presence feels most real. When you are tired, God meets you with rest. When you are anxious, God meets you with steadying. When you are unsure, God meets you with patience. When you feel weak, God does not turn away, He draws closer. This is not a presence that judges or withdraws. It is a presence that stays. Let this first part of the day be gentle. You do not have to rush ahead. You do not have to solve everything before it begins. You do not have to fix yourself or improve your faith before you are welcomed. You are simply becoming aware of something that has always been true. God is already here, already attentive, already caring, already involved in ways you may not yet see. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are arriving. Even now, there is nothing you need to prove, no standard you need to meet in order to be held in God's care. Just allow this awareness to settle gently within you, like a calm presence resting in the background of your thoughts, like a quiet assurance that does not need words. God is with you, in this moment, in this breath, in this beginning, and because of that, this day does not have to be carried alone. You can move forward slowly, anchored by trust. You can face what comes with a steadiness that does not depend on your own strength. You can allow God's presence to shape the tone of your day, not by force, but by quiet companionship. And as you continue, may this simple truth remain with you. You are seen. You are accompanied. You are held. As the day moves forward, life begins to ask more of you. The quiet of the beginning fades, and the rhythm of responsibilities takes its place. Conversations start. Decisions appear. Tasks demand attention. And without noticing, the pace can begin to quicken inside your mind. This is where the invitation to God's presence becomes especially meaningful, not because the day has become harder, but because it has become fuller. God's presence is not something you leave behind when life becomes busy. It is something you carry with you gently into every moment. God's presence is not fragile. It does not disappear when your attention shifts or when your thoughts become crowded. It is not offended by distraction, and it is not weakened by stress. God remains steady even when you forget to notice Him. And the beautiful truth is this: you can return to awareness at any moment. You can return in a single breath. You can return in a pause between tasks. You can return in the middle of a conversation, quietly, inwardly. You do not need to start over. You do not need to apologize. You simply remember. Think about how often you move from one thing to the next without stopping. How easily your mind jumps ahead, planning the next step before the current one is finished. God's presence gently invites you back into the now, not to slow you down unnecessarily, but to ground you, to remind you that this moment is enough and that you are not alone in it. Throughout the day, there are small spaces that often go unnoticed. A moment while waiting, a breath before responding, a pause before making a decision. These moments may seem insignificant, but they are rich with possibility. They are invitations to remember that God is with you right here. When you begin to live with this awareness, something subtle changes. You may notice that your reactions soften, that you feel less rushed, even when time feels limited, that your thoughts become clearer, not because everything is resolved, but because you feel supported. God's presence does not remove responsibility. It reshapes how you carry it. There may be moments today when anxiety tries to take the lead, moments when your thoughts rush ahead, imagining outcomes you cannot control. In those moments, God's presence gently anchors you back to what is real now. Not the imagined future, not the replayed past. Just this moment, held in care. Trust grows slowly through repetition. Each time you pause and remember God's nearness, trust deepens a little more. Each time you release the need to control everything, peace gains room to breathe. This is not forced. It is not something you have to convince yourself of. It unfolds naturally when awareness replaces fear. God's presence also changes how you speak to yourself. Many people carry an inner voice that is demanding, critical, or impatient, a voice that measures worth by productivity and success. When you live with awareness of God's presence, a different voice begins to emerge, one that is kinder, one that allows space for imperfection, one that reminds you that you are valued simply because you are. This does not mean the day will be free of difficulty. It means difficulty is no longer faced alone. God's presence becomes a quiet strength beneath the surface, a steady support that does not draw attention to itself but holds you nonetheless. As you move through your responsibilities, you may notice moments of reassurance, a sense that you do not need to rush as much as you thought, a reminder that doing your best is enough for this moment, a quiet confidence that you are being guided, even when the path is not fully clear. Inviting God's presence does not mean you will always feel peaceful. Feelings rise and fall naturally. But it does mean that peace becomes available again and again. It becomes something you can return to, rather than something you chase. There may be moments when you forget entirely, when stress takes over, when emotions rise quickly. That is not failure. That is part of being human. The invitation is always open to return without judgment, without delay. God's presence does not keep score. It does not withdraw because you became overwhelmed. It waits patiently, ready to be noticed again. Every return is welcomed. Every pause is enough. As the middle of the day unfolds, allow yourself to move with gentleness. You do not need to push beyond your limits to be worthy. You do not need to prove your strength through exhaustion. God's presence reminds you that rest and trust are not signs of weakness, but of wisdom. Let your actions today be guided not by pressure, but by presence. Let your words be shaped by awareness rather than urgency. Let your decisions come from a place of steadiness rather than fear. This does not mean every choice will be easy. It means you will not make them alone. God is not standing outside your life, waiting for you to reach a quieter moment. God is walking with you through the middle of it, through the noise, through the movement, through the ordinary. Even now, as the day continues, you are accompanied, supported, held. Take another gentle breath. Notice where you are. Notice that God is here too, and carry this quiet awareness with you as the day goes on. Not as something you must hold tightly, but as something that holds you. As the day continues to unfold, you may notice a shift inside yourself that is quieter than emotion but deeper than thought. It is the steady awareness that you are being accompanied, not watched from a distance, but gently walked with. This awareness does not interrupt your life. It settles into it, weaving itself through ordinary moments in a way that feels natural rather than forced. Inviting God's presence into your day is not about maintaining constant focus or perfect awareness. It is about relationship, and relationships breathe. They expand and contract. There are moments of closeness and moments of forgetting, and both are held with patience. God does not expect you to stay perfectly mindful every second. God simply remains. As the hours pass, you may encounter moments that test your patience or stretch your emotional capacity. Perhaps a conversation feels heavier than expected, or a task takes longer than you planned. In these moments, it can feel tempting to tighten your grip, to rely only on your own strength, to push through without pause. Yet God's presence offers another way, not avoidance, not resistance, but gentle awareness in the midst of effort. When you allow yourself to remember that God is with you, even while you are working through challenges, something subtle shifts inside. You may still feel the weight of responsibility, but it no longer presses down in the same way. There is a quiet reassurance that you are not required to carry everything perfectly, that grace exists alongside effort, and that support does not disappear just because life feels demanding. God's presence is deeply patient. It does not rush your growth or pressure your healing. It understands that life unfolds in layers, and that some things take time to understand, time to resolve, and time to release. When you invite God into your day, you are not asking for instant clarity or immediate answers. You are allowing yourself to be guided moment by moment, even when the larger picture remains unclear. There is a comfort in knowing that God is not intimidated by uncertainty. You may not know how certain situations will turn out or which path is best to take, but God's presence remains calm within that not knowing. This calm does not demand certainty, it invites trust. It reminds you that you do not need to see the entire road ahead in order to take the next faithful step. As the afternoon moves on, fatigue may begin to appear, not only in your body but also in your thoughts. This is often when self-judgment becomes louder, when impatience with yourself or others can surface more easily. God's presence meets you here too, not with correction, but with compassion. It gently reminds you that tiredness does not make you less worthy, less faithful, or less capable of being held. Inviting God's presence means allowing kindness to shape how you relate to yourself. It means noticing when you are pushing beyond what is healthy and giving yourself permission to soften. God does not ask you to ignore your limits. God honors them. Your need for rest, clarity, and gentleness is not a spiritual failure. It is part of being human. Throughout the day, you may also notice moments of quiet beauty that you might otherwise overlook. A brief stillness, a kind interaction, a sense of relief after tension passes. God's presence heightens your awareness of these moments, not by making them dramatic, but by making them meaningful. They become reminders that goodness is woven into ordinary life, often in simple, unannounced ways. Living with awareness of God's presence does not remove complexity from your life, but it changes how complexity is experienced. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by everything at once, you begin to meet life one moment at a time. This does not mean you stop planning or thinking ahead. It means your planning is rooted in trust rather than anxiety. God's presence also invites honesty. You do not have to pretend that everything feels fine. You do not need to perform gratitude when your heart feels heavy. God welcomes your real experience, whatever it may be. Inviting God into your day means allowing your inner life to be seen without fear of judgment or rejection. There is a quiet strength that grows when you allow yourself to be honest in God's presence. It is the strength of being known and still accepted. This strength does not make you invulnerable, it makes you resilient. It allows you to keep moving forward without hardening your heart. As you move toward the later part of the day, you may begin to reflect on what has unfolded so far. Some moments may feel satisfying, others unfinished. God's presence helps you hold both without pressure. You are not asked to evaluate your day as a success or failure. You are simply invited to notice it, to learn from it, and to carry forward what matters most. Inviting God's presence into your day also means allowing God to be present in your emotions, not only your thoughts. Joy, frustration, hope, disappointment. None of these need to be hidden. God meets you in all of them, offering steadiness rather than suppression, understanding rather than avoidance. You may notice that when you live with this awareness, your reactions begin to soften over time, not because you are trying harder to be patient or calm, but because you feel less alone inside yourself. God's presence creates space between stimulus and response, allowing you to choose with greater care how you engage with the world around you. This is not about becoming passive or detached. It is about becoming grounded. When you are grounded, you can engage fully without being consumed. You can care deeply without being overwhelmed. You can act wisely without being driven by fear. God's presence also reminds you that your value is not measured by how much you accomplish in a day. You are not more loved on productive days or less loved on difficult ones. God's love is steady, not reactive. It does not fluctuate with your performance. This truth, when allowed to settle deeply, can be profoundly freeing. As the light of the day begins to change, whether literally or figuratively, take a moment to notice that you have been accompanied through it all. Even in moments when you forgot, even in moments when stress took over, God did not leave. Presence was constant, even when awareness was not. This realization does not demand anything from you. It simply invites gratitude to arise naturally without forcing it. Gratitude not as obligation, but as recognition. Recognition that you are not alone. Recognition that you were held more gently than you may have realized at the time. Allow yourself to rest in that awareness now, not rushing ahead to what comes next, not reviewing what you wish had gone differently. Simply acknowledging that God has been with you through this portion of the day, and will continue to be with you through whatever remains. You do not need to hold on to this awareness tightly. You do not need to strain to keep it alive. God's presence does not depend on your effort. It remains steady and near, inviting you again and again into a way of living that is rooted in trust, gentleness, and quiet strength. And as this part of the day gently unfolds, Let yourself move forward knowing that you are supported, accompanied, and never required to walk alone. As the day begins to slow and the weight of its moments settles, there is an opportunity to reflect without judgment and to rest without regret. This final portion of the day is not asking you to analyze every detail or to measure yourself by what was completed or left undone. It is simply offering you space to exhale, to release, and to remember that you are still held. Inviting God's presence at the close of the day is not about reviewing your life for mistakes or shortcomings. God is not approaching you with a list of failures. God comes with gentleness, with understanding, and with a steady love that does not waver. The end of the day is not a verdict. It is a soft landing. You may notice thoughts drifting back to moments that felt unfinished or uncomfortable, words you wish you had spoken differently, decisions that still feel uncertain. These reflections do not need to be pushed away, but they also do not need to be carried heavily. God's presence allows you to acknowledge them without being consumed by them. We can place them gently into God's care, trusting that what remains unresolved tonight does not have to be solved right now. As the noise of the day fades, you may become more aware of your inner state. Perhaps there is tiredness in your body, or quiet emotions rising to the surface now that things are slowing down. God's presence meets you here as well, not asking you to be strong or composed, but simply honest. There is no need to hide weariness. There is no need to rush yourself into peace. God is patient with your process. The presence of God at the end of the day offers reassurance that you are not defined by any single moment. A difficult conversation does not define you. A missed opportunity does not define you. A day that felt heavy does not define you. You are held by a love that sees your whole story, not just today's chapter. As you reflect, you may notice moments of grace woven quietly through the day, small kindnesses, unexpected strength, times when you were supported, even subtly. God's presence helps you see these not as accidents, but as reminders that care was present, even when you were not consciously aware of it at the time. Inviting God's presence now is also an invitation to rest. Not only physical rest, but mental and emotional rest as well. Rest from replaying conversations. Rest from planning what cannot be changed tonight. Rest from carrying tomorrow before it arrives. God's presence reassures you that it is safe to pause, safe to let go, safe to be still. You are not being asked to carry the weight of tomorrow into this moment. Tomorrow will have its own grace, its own strength, its own provision. Right now there is only this moment, and God's presence within it. Allow yourself to settle into that truth, even if it takes time. As the day closes, you may feel gratitude beginning to form, not as an obligation, but as a quiet response. Gratitude for having made it through the day. Gratitude for moments of clarity or connection. Gratitude even for the awareness of your need for rest. God receives this gratitude gently, without demand, without expectation. If parts of the day were difficult, you are not required to find meaning in them right now. Meaning often unfolds slowly. God's presence assures you that nothing is wasted, even when understanding has not yet arrived. You can trust that what feels unresolved tonight is still being held with care. The presence of God at the end of the day also offers forgiveness, not as a transaction, but as a state of being. You are not held captive by your mistakes. You are not defined by your limitations. God's mercy is not something you earn by being better tomorrow. It is something you rest in now. As you prepare to move into rest, let your breathing slow naturally. Let your body soften. Let your thoughts loosen their grip. You do not need to force yourself into calm. God's presence invites calm to emerge on its own, in its own time. There is comfort in knowing that even while you sleep, you are not separated from God's care. Awareness may fade, but presence does not. God remains attentive through every moment, whether you are awake or at rest. This allows you to surrender the need to stay alert, to monitor, to control. You can entrust the coming hours to God without fear. You can entrust your unfinished thoughts, your unanswered questions, your quiet hopes. Nothing you place into God's care is too small or too complicated. Everything is received with patience and love. As this day comes to a close, there is nothing left for you to prove, Nothing left to accomplish, nothing left to hold together by your own strength. You are allowed to be exactly as you are, right here, right now. Let this awareness remain with you as you rest. God has been with you throughout the day, and God remains with you now. You are not alone in this silence. You are not alone in the stillness. You are not alone in what comes next. May this gentle presence carry you into rest. May peace settle where there has been effort. May trust replace tension. And as you move from this day into the next, know that the same steady presence that walked with you today will be there again, unchanging, patient, and near.